Oi, eu sou a Aymara Limma e vocês estão assistindo a Cine Arte Variety, o seu programa semanal de variedades e entretenimento. Hoje no Cine Arte Variety vocês vão ver uma entrevista com Jeff DeLia. A gente vai falar sobre o Grammys 2022. Ele esteve lá na cerimônia acompanhando um artista e ele representa também artistas que já ganharam Grammys. O bate-papo com ele foi muito gostoso, ele é pura inspiração. Hi Jeff, how are you? Thanks for being here with us.
Yes, good to see you as well. It's been so long and I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I want to start asking you, how did you get involved in this industry? Were you passionate about music or passionate about business?
For me personally, I definitely was very passionate about music. As a young person, I always wanted to be around bands and friends that played music, and I didn't have a knack for playing. So for me, it was like, maybe I can hold a clipboard backstage and pretend that I'm doing something business-wise. I just wanted to be around the energy and the creation and experimentation, with music. I also learned at a fairly young age that I kind of thrived in a business environment and had some kind of business dealings as a young person, and realized that I kind of had a knack for that. So for me, it was like combining that passion for music and this kind of entrepreneurial, businessy sort of drive that I had, and put those two together, and I came up with artist management. And I assume maybe it's because I read Rolling Stone magazine or Spin magazine. I'm sure I read that a manager was a thing, but I'm not exactly sure where that came about. I've just always felt really connected to music, and when I was 16 is when I figured out management was the path I wanted to take, and decided to move to New York and start pursuing it.
What it is to be an artist manager?
As an artist manager, I manage the careers of full-time recording and touring artists. So I'm engaging in all aspects of their business that have to do with their records and their record labels and the teams that support them, with marketing. I work with their booking agents and the tour managers and everybody that helps make their live shows, happen and their tours happen, and, film and television and sync and all sorts of things like that.
Today, you have a very successful career, but I want to know, how did you get it started and what were your challenges?
For me, my journey as an artist manager started about 10 years ago. I had been interning at a big management company called Red Light Management, and got introduced, unrelated to the company, I got introduced through a mutual friend, an old friend of mine named Howard Bloom. Got introduced to AJ Croce, who became my first client. And he's a singer-songwriter and a virtuoso piano player. And
I see a lonely man whose lady has left him, 5'2" and crack my teeth, all alone now, eating his heart out.
Had been, active in his career for 20-something years, signed to a major label, and toured the world with incredible artists from B.B. King to Ray Charles to Dave Matthews and all sorts of folks like that. Since then, I've been able to find my way into managing some other incredible artists, like the iconic Blind Boys of Alabama,
We're the boys as big as the sea,
who've received a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award and 5 Grammys total. Bobby Rush is a blues legend that I've managed him since he's won 2 Grammys and had an autobiography come out last year. And Dom Flemons, who's a kind of folk bluegrass artist. He's won a Grammy and been nominated a couple times. he's a historian and a lot of documentaries, and just has a very rich knowledge of music and music history. And I also work with Dustbowl Revival, who are based here in LA, who are a younger, like, folk rock kind of funk soul band that have horns and really great songs and really fun high energy shows. And lastly, Sarah Grace.
Don't come knocking on my door, I don't want you no more. Where did I love her?
Who's a young girl that was discovered on The Voice and made it to the semifinals on Kelly Clarkson's team. And so for me, you know, it's working with these artists and helping to build their careers. And I'm very inspired and in love with the experience of getting to collaborate on their music and helping them connect with people that they've been inspired by or looked up to or enjoyed recordings of for many years. I get to bring about collaborations with, over the years, folks from Steve Cropper to Vince Gill and you know, Keb Mo, as well as Leon Russell.
And what were your challenges?
Oftentimes I highlight the kind of steps in my journey and leave out some of the challenging moments where I had to take, you know, big risks and really kind of trust my faith or my belief system or my intuition in order to kind of take a leap and start managing and maybe be low on money or, you know, this or that in order to kind of have the success that I have now. So a few of the things that happened, you know, early on. First of all, I was going to college in New York at Baruch College, and I was always doing many things in music. I was booking shows kind of locally. I had an events company producing events showcasing music and experimental art. I interned for a couple, you know, companies and people, and eventually I managed a band in New York, and that was my first experience managing. But it was very like grassroots. It wasn't working in the business and the industry the way that I do today. I decided to move to LA, continue my education, but go to a school that focused more on music and the music business. So I went to Musicians Institute and did this 6 months like immersive studies of the music business. And it was like 16 classes taught by music business professionals, people that were either practicing entertainment lawyers or worked for record companies or worked at like NBC doing the music and supervision sort of stuff. And so I learned a lot, and that's where I started interning at Mitch Schneider organization, doing PR, helping campaigns for like David Bowie and Dolly Parton and Paul Van Dyke and Steve Aoki and festivals like Ultra Music Festival, and interned at Red Light Management, where I was helping with projects for like Damian Marley and 311 and Alabama Shakes and things of that nature. But it was right around that time that I was kind of in between places that I was living and thinking about maybe moving to New York and starting to interview for jobs and think about managing or assisting managers and getting a full-time position at companies. And then I got introduced to AJ Croce, and I decided that I was going to manage him and I was going to do it that way. And I was at the time doing little jobs like catering or working as a doorman in a luxury condominium building or anything I could do to kind of bridge the gap to eventually get into full-time management. And then I found myself in this place where I was running out of money. I didn't have a place to live. I was crashing on friends' couches and in their spare bedrooms and things like that. And I decided I was going to manage, you know, this artist and pursue, you know, that full time. And, you know, in the moment, I felt like I was like living in I had the mindset of a guy who was like living in a mansion in the Hollywood Hills. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. I feel really good about it. Everything is great. But in hindsight, looking back, it was really difficult. I was living basically out of my car, packing up my stuff, moving it from friend's place to friend's place to friend's place, and running out of money. And eventually I stopped working in these other jobs. and I started investing 100% into myself and managing full time. And this was in July of 2012 when I started managing AJ Croce. I think by October, I wasn't doing any other jobs. And by December, I met the next people I would sign to become clients. And I remember January, I was on business in New York, and I gave my last like $10 or whatever to a homeless person. And I just believed that everything was going to work out. And this was the path that I was meant to follow, to be a manager, and that I was going to make it no matter what. And I swear the very next day, these 2 deals got closed. I was going to have enough money as a manager from those deals that was going to cover me for the next like month or 2. And then like it kept trickling in and building from there. And I did some more deals and started managing more artists. And, you know, it hasn't been easy since then. I've had lots of, you know, ups and downs and living off of credit card debt or this or that to kind of get to where I'm at now. But I just believed in myself like 100%. I did whatever I had to do to pay my bills and keep managing the artists and doing what I was doing. And now here I am 10 years later, and I've got a great roster. I've got a business that's been here for almost 10 years. And I think, you know, I have lots of goals and aspirations and a long way to go to truly be successful. But I think I've definitely had some success, and I definitely was right in some sense that this was a thing for me. And I hope and I urge other people to you know, really follow their dreams and trust their instincts and take risks. And I always remember at that Musicians Institute graduation at the Wiltern in Los Angeles in 2012, I think, what Alice Cooper said: you have to take risks to avoid falling into mediocrity. And so it might be difficult and scary, and there might be fears, and what happens if I do this, or I run out of this, or I don't make it there, or whatever. And that's like your ego trying to keep you from really achieving what your dreams are. So I urge everybody to listen to what their gut is and follow their dreams. And no matter how difficult it is, persist. And no matter what, keep going.
Jeff, you are an inspiration. Thank you so much for this beautiful story. Very inspiring. When one of your artists want to create a new song, do you participate from the beginning of the creation? How do you collaborate with them?
Yeah, so for every artist, it's different what the collaboration is like for me. You know, they might come to me with everything very fully formed. They've written the songs. They know exactly who they want to work with and how it's going to go. And they kind of just do their thing, deliver the music. And then I work with the label and help, you know, bring it to life. In other cases, it's like, all right, it's been 2 years since we released an album. Now it's time to work on another one. And I help brainstorm maybe what the concept or direction is going to be, maybe who the producer is that they're going to work with. Maybe I help come up with people that they might write with, or artists they might bring in as special guests on the project and things like that. I mean, I don't personally help shepherd the songwriting process. I'm not a producer, but I help like link really cool people to the mix that they might be inspired by and want to work with. So for example, a project that just came out on Bobby Rush. It was his 50th anniversary of a song that was a hit for him. It was on the Billboard R&B charts in 1971, called Chicken Heads. And it's been in films, and it's had a kind of a life of its own for the last 50 years. But I thought it would be really cool to honor the legacy of that song and the 50th anniversary, and re-record it with some other like peers and legends in his circle. So I suggested he re-records it. We record it with 3 other notable artists: Buddy Guy, who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Government Mule, who's got Warren Haynes from the Allman Brothers, and Kingfish, who just won a Grammy. Christone Kingfish Ingram won a Grammy on Sunday. And they all kind of made their new versions of the song. and I worked with our distributor 30 Tigers on setting up a 12-inch vinyl release on this thing called Record Store Day in America, and we put it out digitally. So that was like an example of something that was kind of my idea. It's kind of working with all the pieces of the puzzle that the artists have and generate an idea, pitch it, see if they're into it, and kind of help bring it to life. So every artist is entirely different, but that's kind of how it goes in general.
I want to ask you to tell us about your artist. If you could highlight a little bit of each artist, I would love to hear.
So the first one that I want to share is I mentioned AJ Croce, and I mentioned how wonderful he is as a singer-songwriter, and his own projects are, his albums are really great, and his show's incredible. His most recent studio album is by request, and I urge everybody to check that out. But I also want to highlight something that's happening right now. He's been performing a show called Croce Plays Croce, which, for those who don't know, his father was a very prolific, legendary, and famous artist named Jim Croce, who had hit songs, #1 songs called like Operator and Time in a Bottle and Bad Bad Leroy Brown, and I think he's sold over 50 million albums worldwide. He's like one of the biggest artists. So he passed away a long time ago in 1973. But AJ's been doing a show in addition to his own where he honors his dad's legacy and the legacy of the Croce family, and he performs songs and stories of his dad's, music of his own, and covers that link them. So this year, 2022, is the 50th anniversary of his dad's seminal debut solo album, You Don't Mess Around with Jim. So in the fall, he's going to be performing shows where he does that album front to back. And then he does a second set that's like that Croce Plays Croce show that I mentioned. So this year, I think there's going to be a reissue from BMG, which is the label that is representing the catalog of Jim Croce, and a lot of other really fun things to kind of honor and celebrate Jim Croce. So that's one thing. For the Blind Boys of Alabama, they're kind of in between projects. So I think it's more so what's to come.
Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? Stars and stars dancing in the night.
They're definitely going to have a new album coming out next year, and I just really urge people to find the Blind Boys of Alabama on their favorite platform and listen to some of their music that they've recorded over the last 70 years. They've definitely had a lot of great, music and success, and I just say check those guys out. Another artist is Bobby Rush.
Back in 1968, until about 71, I had a #1 record across the country.
And he worked really hard, and we worked really hard on his autobiography, which came out on Hachette Books last year. And they've published folks like Stephen Colbert and Tina Fey and Keith Richards. And, he's 88 years old. So this is his life story, his tell-all, his book that covers his years coming up with some of the greats of the blues like Muddy Waters and Howlin' Wolf and B.B. King and Buddy Guy and folks like that. And his journey migrating in this, there was this thing called the kind of Great Migration of a lot of blues artists in the South up to Chicago. And in the 1950s and 60s, it was this like magical place of the blues.
Back in the day when I recorded this record, 1971, it went #1. It's called Chicken Heads. Let me explain something about chicken.
So there's a lot of stories and triumphs and tribulations that he experienced, and gotten great reviews, and people really love it. It's on Audible. You can get an audiobook if you like. So that book is called I Ain't Studdin' Ya, My American Blues Story by Bobby Rush and Herb Powell. So that's Bobby Rush.
Dreaming about you. Love that girl. I love them chicken heads too. Without your love, mama, I just can't go on. Feeling I have for you is much too strong. Let me in, let me in, let me in, let me in on in.
The next one would be Dom Flemons.
If I never see you no more, do Lord remember me.
We've just been working on his next studio album, which will come out in 2023. So in the meantime, I would like to speak about Black Cowboys, which was an album he put out in 2018 on Smithsonian Folkways, which is a record label in conjunction with the Smithsonian Museums in Washington, D.C. And it's an album that he really details the history of Black Cowboys. A lot of people don't know 1 in 4 cowboys to settle in the West were Black. And it's sadly a part of the history that wasn't really told through all the Westerns when those movies were very hot, and through, you know, American history over here. So he records songs of his own about the Black Cowboys, songs of some of the Black Cowboys that settled in the West. He wrote like a 40-page booklet on the history, and that got nominated for a Grammy and Blues Music Award. And for a year, it was featured in the Country Music Hall of Fame alongside Carrie Underwood and Keith Urban and Chris Stapleton. So that was really cool. So that's Black Cowboys. That's available on your platform of choice by Dom Flemons. The next thing would be Dustbowl Revival. They just released a single called The Exception. It features the recent, I believe, 2-time Grammy nominees, the Secret Sisters, and you can find that on Spotify or Amazon or Apple or Tidal or any of those platforms. But just check out their music. They're a really fun band. They write and record, you know, beautiful music. And then, you know, Sarah Grace, she's going to be releasing a single soon. So I'd say just stay tuned for that. Check her out on Instagram or social media. She is a young artist and just kind of starting her path in music. That's it from the 72 Music Management roster.
What's your opinion about the change of the music industry? From vinyl, DVDs, CDs, now to streaming, Spotify, Apple Music. How has this affected the artist and the industry? Do you agree with the change?
You know, my personal opinion on that is you know, change is good, right? We all are constantly evolving personally, professionally, and, you know, in the industry as well. So at the same time, it's challenging and it creates friction and it's difficult. And there's kinks to work out and things like that. I think right now the age that we're in is the age of streaming, and you know, Spotify and all the platforms, Amazon, Tidal, Apple Music, etc. Playlists kind of really drive the listening experience for consumers, and so I don't know if it's for better or for worse, but it's the kind of game we play, if you will. It's the industry, it's the system that is activated right now. So we set up releases with the intent of making sure that we're pitching and we're activating as much playlist and placement action at these digital streaming platforms as we can. Is it good or bad? I mean, I think we all agree that royalties, should be higher. The amount of money that artists, songwriters, producers are making in the streaming era is way less than what they were making when it was the 90s and CDs were the main thing, or all the other mediums of the past. But what I can say is there are people that are looking out for artists and music creators and pushing hard to kind of amend the systems in America and around the world. And so a couple years ago, the US passed this bill called the Music Modernization Act. And what that did is it created a system so publishers can get paid and songwriters can get paid for streaming. It was kind of the Wild West and everything was very chaotic and people were not even getting paid their small royalty that they should have. Much less, they also kind of increased the amount of money they made. So, I don't know if it's for better or for worse, but as the system changes, we just evolve with the times and everyone does their best to make the most out of it. And, I think it's great that we don't all have like stacks of CDs surrounding us and we can just access music digitally kind of wherever we are. Yet at the same time, vinyl sales have been going up around the world. And the manufacturing plants that make vinyl LPs can't keep up with the demand and the amount of orders the record companies and artists want to make. So it's really positive that there's been this resurgence of vinyl. It's a very unique way of listening to music. It's got kind of a different sound and different level of fidelity. And it's like kind of an experience. You grab your record and put it on the record player and sit down and really like absorb the music as opposed to being maybe sidetracked by all the other things we're doing on our phone and in our lives while streaming music. So that's my 2 cents. I'm it's just an evolution.
I know you represent artists who have won the Grammys, and I know you've been to the ceremony many times, but how many times have you been to the Grammys?
I was just there this last weekend and I think I counted and I had to remove a year because of the pandemic, but I think it's been 9 times. So it's been an incredible journey in my career. I've been a member of the Recording Academy for a long time, and it's been great to be invited to go to the Grammys and to have projects that I've worked really hard on and my artists and clients have worked really hard on, and have them get nominated or win a Grammy. It's just a very, very, very high honor. And, we really love to be able to go and celebrate with all the other nominees.
We artists love to walk the red carpet. I've seen pictures of you walking the red carpet this year at the Grammys. You were so elegant. Oh my God. Love it. But I want to know, how was it to walk the red carpet at the Grammys?
I also love walking the red carpet. I've been fortunate enough to do it many times. I get to when I have an artist I manage that's nominated, and I get to go with them and they get to do, a lot of different interviews with various media outlets from Associated Press to CBS or Grammy.com or Rolling Stone or things of that nature. It's always fun. We get a few good pictures, and I kind of help shepherd them along with our publicists, like through the media process. But I will say thank you for your compliment on my elegance and my style, which I'd like to give credit to Venk Modor, who styled me for the Grammys. And anyway, yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed it.
Could you tell us, how was it to be at the Grammys this year?
The Grammys were in Vegas for the very first time. So it was really fun to be there and in that environment. The thing about the Grammys is it really is this like very high energy and upbeat celebratory weekend and experience. I feel like everyone there is like almost on like cloud 9, often connected to a Grammy nominated project, or maybe they're a +1 or a relative or a friend of somebody. that are just happy to be at the Grammys. For me personally, I love seeing a lot of friends and a lot of peers and in the industry, and meeting a lot of new people as well. But for me, the show is really what it's all about. It's this true celebration of music from the prior year period. It's really music's biggest night, and there's incredible collaborations on stage and performances, and there's two shows really. So there's the one that's televised on CBS that most of the world sees, and then there's an earlier show where a lot more of the categories exist, and there's other performances, and that usually airs on Grammy.com or on YouTube and online. For me, I loved the performance of by Allison Russell on the first show. She was nominated for I think 3 Grammys this last year. On the televised show, Jon Batiste just was electric. I loved his performance. I loved her, Lenny Kravitz, and Travis Barker. I thought that was a really cool collaboration. And then of course, the most touching moment, I think, was the tribute to Ukraine and John Legend's performance, and that poet that had just arrived back from the Ukraine or over from the Ukraine a few days prior, I believe, and the speech from President Zelensky over there from the Ukraine. But yeah, I just loved being at the Grammys. I always do, and it was really a wonderful time.
Are you taking new clients? If anyone want to get your attention, what should they do?
Yeah, I mean, I always like to keep an open door for friends or colleagues, to send me something that they're passionate about and feel, would be a good fit. People will submit sometimes on my website, 72musicmanagement.com. I'm honestly at kind of a maxed out capacity. I'm just really focused on managing my 6 artists that I represent, but I don't want to just say no to everything. So it's always kind of an open door.
Have you ever been to Brazil?
No, I really want to go. Brazil and South America are just in general on really high on my list. I've been fortunate to go throughout Europe and pop over to parts of Asia and Australia, and of course here in North America. And now I feel like I need to really explore, especially Rio and Sao Paulo, where I have many friends, and other places.
I really loved talking to you. It was such a pleasure. Thank you. I wish you much more success, even more than you have right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Aymara. Thanks so much for having me. And it's really been a pleasure to chat with you and to be on the program today. And I look forward to visiting you in Italy.
Gostaram? Nós também. Então vocês já sabem, na próxima sexta-feira, Cine Arte Variety aqui no VRT Channel. E no próximo episódio temos uma entrevista exclusiva com Camila Bachmann. Ela é uma violinista, uma cantora maravilhosa finlandesa e ex-cantora do Cirque du Soleil.